Color, trend, and design expert Luana Rubin is here, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's happening in the industry with producing cloth.
Yes, the textile industry.
Big changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The textile industry is undergoing a major technology revolution because we're starting to switch over from screen printed fabrics to digital printed fabrics.
Okay.
And
so tell me what the difference is.
Yeah.
Explain what screen printing is.
Okay. Well, screen printing is based on really an old technology where a screen is put down, the color is swiped across or sprayed or whatever the technology is, and then another screen. Mm-hmm. So perhaps 100 years ago, it was 1 or 2 or 3 screens, and now in our industry it may be 14 to 17 or 18 screens maximum, but that really limits the amount of colors that can go into a fabric.
And most quilters are familiar with that because they've seen those little dots on the selvage. Those are the screen print colors.
Right, you can tell how many screens by the number of colored dots on the selvage.
Right.
Right. So digital printing is where you take a digital image, an image that comes out of your computer, out of your laptop, out of your digital photo, out of your digital camera. And this image is fed into a computerized printing machine, and it will put that image out onto the fabric. And it's not screen by screen, it's done line by line, pixel by pixel.
Oh, wow. Now there's pigment and there's dye sublimation, right?
Right.
Can you explain that to me?
Sure. So some of the early digital printing was pigment dye, and those tend to be more simple, less colors, not as rich and saturated.
And those are actual pigments like ground up minerals, for example, that are in some kind of a base?
Yes.
That sit on the surface?
Right. They tend to sit more on the surface, whereas the dye sublimation tends to soak into the fabric and adhere to it, and it can be more color fast also than the pigment printed. So we like that because we like to make things that we can wash as quilters.
Oh, right.
Sometimes. But also the bright colors are great for any kind of artwork you might make to hang up on your wall or otherwise.
Is digital printing more expensive than the traditional?
Yes, because it's a new technology, but I will say that the price is coming down rapidly. So the price that we saw when it first started, just from a couple of companies a few years ago, now that price is coming down, and now more and more manufacturers are producing these kind of products, which is really exciting.
Yeah, yeah. So this piece in front of us here, what process was used to create it?
So this was that dye sublimation, and of course you can see that it may not be obvious, but it's not a standard repeat. A standard repeat would be 24 inches.
Oh, and this is really wide.
And this is the standard width, but this width this way is not necessarily exactly 24 inches.
Oh, I see. So this is selvage to selvage.
Right.
Okay.
So when you have a screen, you're limited. It has to be 24 inches, or it has to divide into 24 inches. So it would be like an 8 or 6 or 4 inch repeat.
I see. Okay, great.
So
take a look at the next one here.
Right. So with a digital printed fabric, you can have a photograph.
And is this a photo? It's very realistic.
It is, yes, and I'm sure that it has been tweaked in Photoshop to make it appear even more realistic, more eye-popping and more detailed. But it can be a photograph, it can be a painting, or it can be a combination of both. And in this case, it's a really fantastic photograph, and perhaps there was some Photoshop work done to brighten the colors. And you can see the grass. It goes from really sharp hooves on kind of a blendy background. So it's a piece of art for sure, but it is based on a realistic photograph.
Interesting. Okay. Wow, this is beautiful.
And this piece illustrates a couple things we've been talking about. One is that it's a large repeat. So obviously it's not a 24-inch repeat. Well, here's the selvage. It's not a 24-inch repeat. It's a 43 or 44-inch repeat to create a square, because normally the width of the fabric is about 43, 44 inches.
Right, right.
And it's a combination of a photograph and artwork.
This would be a great one to practice your free motion quilting on.
Yeah, oh, it would be. I agree. Yeah. And then this is a great example of artwork. So somebody's incredible painting. This might have been a digital painting to start with. but it has so much tiny detail. And
Oh
again,
yeah, all the individual hairs.
Right, right.
You couldn't have done that maybe as well with the
Right.
screen printing.
Right. So in addition to it being more than that standard 24-inch repeat, it's a larger repeat. It has way more colors than you could ever do in 17 screens.
Yeah.
And it has incredible detail that would be really difficult to do with the screen print because the engraving process does have its limitations.
Okay. All right, now these are from a new collection, right?
Yeah, Studio Art Quilt Associates.
And they did a collection before. This is the second?
Right. This is the follow-up to Urban Textures, which we did a couple years ago.
Okay.
And
it's called the Golden Hour.
Yes, and it's a fundraiser collection, which is kind of exciting. And what happened was we came up with this idea that the golden hour, the first and last hours of the day that are suffused with that golden light and create those long purple shadows would be a great theme, a great inspiration for a collection.
Yeah.
And so this collection, because it has so much detail and so much color, had to be done digitally. But you can see that texture and that golden hour inspiration of color.
Ooh.
This one is really interesting because it's a huge repeat, but it's also a mirror image repeat, 4 different ways, right? So here's the original artwork, and then it's a mirror image this way, and then it's a mirror image the other way.
So here's one line, and then the other down there.
Right, exactly. So it's a huge repeat this way.
Beautiful.
This one also really illustrates the golden hour, and you can see there's a real depth that's created by the detail of the digital, and it has a kind of a glowing quality, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. Very luminous.
Here's another one that shows just all the colors, all the saturation and the intensity and the detail of the color. You can never do something like this in a screen print. And this would be a great way for an artist who makes a painting or a tie-dye or something like that to reproduce their work to share with others.
Yeah, it's just beautiful.
And another one that really illustrates the golden hour, kind of that golden pond, shimmering water.
Yeah, light on the water.
Feeling. It's abstract, but you have a sense of what it is.
Yeah. Oh, lots of color in this one.
Yes, for sure. Another one that really illustrates fabulous digital saturation and color and detail.
Really, really beautiful. Wow.
And this is definitely one of my favorites because, again, there's so much depth. There's such a story here between the light and the water water
droplets.
And a very large repeat. And you really have a sense of water and light in this
So exciting to see what's happening in the industry and all the new options we're going to have available to us.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Play with color and let it guide your creative process when you make time for contemporary quilting every day.